Love is my decision, and love is your decision. That has been the focus. It'll be the focus this morning, but it has been the focus for the whole month as we learn the art and science of our spiritual teachings and really using them in this world if we wish to see a change. And I love the idea of being our decision. Being our decision as a way to conclude this month. There's another Sunday, we know that, but I'm not speaking. So this is my conclusion of our way and the science and the art of our spiritual teachings. Because there are many, many, many times when challenges do come up and it's really hard to love, and especially, I think, in relationships. Relationships will trigger all kinds of stuff for us, and so teach them. If we are not motivated by love, come from love, then all of our other spiritual goals and work fall short. They fall short. So today we talk about making the decision to love, because as Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity with his wife Myrtle, says in Talks on Truth, he writes this: the one who has made union with divine love through his inner consciousness, who lets it pour its healing currents into his soul and his body, is fortunate beyond all description. Love, of course, is a choice, as most things are in life. Love is a choice. As we make ourselves receptive to love, look for it in every move, in all kinds of actions and all activities, the greater love shows up in our life. And to be loved doesn't mean you have to walk around just loving every single human being in that kind of a way it's not me. You know, I'm not going to walk around and just be like this gushy, sweet, lovey person. But I'm going to smile. I'm going to be nice to everyone I meet. And that's my way of showing love. So we want to make love as practical as we can and to respect people. That is the biggest part of what I view as a description of love. So I want to explore 3 areas of love this morning: divine love, tough love, and then sacred love. So divine love, as our beautiful reading from the consciousness of Dana Smith showed us this morning. This is our grounding point. This is where we really connect with self. When we align with that love, this is the truth. We don't even have to align. It's in us. It is us. It is the truth of who we are. So, and I love these words from Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind. Love is the central flame of the universe, nay, the very fire itself. It is written that God is love, and that we are his express likeness, the image of the eternal being. Love is self-givingness through creation, the impartation of the divine through the human. That is, I believe this, even though sometimes it doesn't look like it. We're only responsible for ourselves. And so I do believe that this is the way that this infinite energy expresses itself on this planet through us. Because we are in these human forms, and we really get to be love when we become conscious of how important it really is for fulfilling our lives. Despite what you have maybe learned in your youth about, or your religious upbringing, I want you to know that God's love for us is completely, totally, 100% unconditional. There are no strings attached. There's nothing that we have to do. There's nothing that we have to be. It is there unconditionally, waiting for us to recognize it. That's all we need, is an awareness of within us is this power for good. And that power for good is pure love. It's God's love given freely. It simply washes over you, through you, in you, and as you. And I want to give you an opportunity to feel the love of God in an illustration. This is a story about a human experience, but it gets pretty darn close to that feeling of great love that is beyond words, beyond description. The very love of God. Now, I've told this story before, but I want to tell it again. His name is John. He had wild hair, wears a t-shirt with holes in it, dirty jeans, no shoes, and this was literally his wardrobe for the whole 4 years of college. He's a brilliant student, genius level, and just more than a little eccentric. So across the street from where John lived is this very conservative church. Its congregations are older, well-dressed, and moneyed, much like all of us. They might even be judged as being on the stuffy side, just like us. One day, John decided he was going to go to church. As usual, he's running late, and when he walks in, he has no shoes, dirty jeans, holey shirt, and wild hair. The service had already begun, and not being shy, he proceeds to walk down the aisle looking for a seat. And this church was completely packed, and he can't find a seat. By now, people are beginning to shift in their seats, and they're looking a bit uncomfortable. But no one says anything. John gets closer and closer to the pulpit. And when he realizes there are no seats, he sits on the carpet. By now, the people are really uptight, and the tension in the air is thick. About this time, the minister realizes that from way in the back, an older, elderly, like me, deacon is walking, making his way toward John. Now, this deacon is in his 80s, and is very dignified. He has silver gray hair, three-piece suit, a gold pocket watch, and he walks with a cane. And as he starts walking toward the boy, everyone is saying to themselves, you can't blame him for what he's going to tell him, because he's going to really tell him off. Like he doesn't belong here. He's a disruption. And it takes a long time for the deacon to get up to where John was sitting on the carpet. And everything was utterly silent, except for the clicking of his cane as he walked down the aisle. All eyes were focused on him. You can't even hear anyone breathing. The people are thinking, the minister can't even preach the sermon until that deacon does what he has to do. And now the deacon reaches John. To everyone's surprise, he drops his cane on the carpet, and with great difficulty, he sits down with John. And he shook his hand and welcomed him. Everyone chokes up with emotion who's watching this. When the minister gains control, he says, what I am about to preach, you will never remember, but what you have seen, you will always remember. Because that is acceptance. That is unconditional love. No judgment. And that's what this infinite energy is. It is all love. It doesn't care what you wear, what you do. It doesn't. It loves you unconditionally. Unconditionally. So just breathe in that nice feeling of, I don't know, even when I read that story, I get God bumps all over my body. It just feels like we need to show up as more caring, loving people on this planet. So even though that we've opened our hearts, it really feels like there's so much more that we can do and be. It's really about being on our planet. So let's take that open-hearted place and bring it to what I am calling tough love. And it's not what we think it means. Tough love. Sometimes loving what is right in front of us is tough. It can be really hard. And that is the high and holy work that we have been called to do. A wise spiritual leader once said that human relations are the intersection between when the rubber hits the road. Because spiritually is how we show up in the world. This is where we do our human homework. This is where we get to actually practice what we talk about, practice what you preach. That is the only way it can come about. Ask yourself, am I willing to meet this, embrace this, and love this through to the other side, no matter how challenging it can be? It really is high and holy work. The Dalai Lama once said that we all have friends. These people are in our lives who are easy to love and easy to forgive. Then there are our sacred friends. You might have a lot of sacred friends. Those who call us into greatness, but whose relationship with our sacred friends, that this is what activates our evolution. It has been said, when it's harder to love, love harder. There will always be people that it feels like it's really hard to love. You can probably think of a few. You might not even know them personally. You can probably think of a few. And this is where our work really comes in. So here's a few ideas for loving someone when it's tough. When you look into their eyes, look for the good. Look for what they do right. Ask yourself, what am I thinking about this person? Can I change my thoughts about how this person is what I think he is or her is? And start thinking about what there is to love about that person? Pray for your highest and best, always, always. Not for them to change to meet your needs, but for you to change yourself in what you are seeing, in what you are experiencing, in whatever story you've made up in your mind about this relationship. Or, like I said, it can be from a distance. These are selfless acts. And they mirror the love that the divine has for us. That's what we're doing. We're mirroring our divinity onto someone else because they are unconditional and we're not asking for anything in return. The interesting thing is that often when someone receives this unconditional love, something in them changes. It can happen. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. We do it for ourselves, but we're mirroring that which is divine, and which is divine in that person as well. In his Real Love book, Greg Bauer says that real love melts monsters. I've often been asked, How do you love others when they do not appear to love themselves? For example, they abuse drugs or alcohol. They don't take responsibility for themselves. They blame everyone else for the challenges in their lives. Maybe you know people like that, and you love them anyway. You love them anyway. What's the right action to take? How do you apply love in these tough situations? Of course, our basic tenet of our teachings is self-responsibility. We set boundaries. There are boundaries. To love unconditionally does not mean that we do not set boundaries on what we will and will not put up with or take in our lives. That's very, and there's only one person who can set those boundaries. And those boundaries are you. So tap into your inner guidance center through prayer, through active listening, and you will know, then trust it and act. Then we have sacred love. Let's spend a few minutes on what we are calling sacred love, or romantic relationships. Those certainly can be places for us to do our human homework. Yes? And if you don't have one, just hold this in your consciousness, because you're going to be attracting one if you want one. Not everybody does, but if you want to be in this romantic relationship, here's some quick ideas that can serve and support you in your current relationship, or in the one you desire to draw into your life. I got 3, A, B, and C. A, individual wholeness. First, it will always begin with our relationship with the God of our knowing, the God of our belief. That's where it begins. The romantic notion of love that says we can find the perfect person for us. Then we will be whole and complete. And we'll find a person and fall madly in love with them and live happily ever after. Okay? A lot of people, I say, how's that working for you? Sometimes it does. I hear people say that, you know. I think it's a lot of work, but it's worth it sometimes. Okay. Romantic love has a spiritual basis. There is a craving within each of us for that union. Conscious union with God, our source. We know that love is the power that creates the union, and our soul will not rest until it is in that oneness. But romantic love sidetracks us. Instead of that oneness, romantic love brings us into where we can project our beliefs, our feelings onto someone else. And then that person will always come up short. That person will not meet the idealized standard of love that you might have. It's in the movies. You know, you see the movies. People fall in love. I remember growing up seeing all those movies, especially the older movies, not the newer movies, some of the newer movies. But a lot of that is a fairy tale. And no one says you have to love yourself first before you can be in any kind of romantic relationship with anyone else. You have to honor who you are. You must do that. Not the romantic idea of falling in love with another person, but embracing the love of the divine. When we do, we will become that whole person. Nobody can make us whole and complete. Only we can do that work on ourselves, and that's our power. We must come as a whole person into any relationship, and then a sacred relationship is possible. And B, roles. It's time that we understand that sacred partnership involves, I like this, a cosmic couple. That's a Barbara Marx Hubbard term. A cosmic couple. It moves away from gender stereotypes, is fluid movement, depending on the needs of that time. Our roles in a cosmic courtship are to ensure that our household is taken care of, that we are taken care of, and if we have children, that they're taken care of, all of the chores of, running a house and maintaining a lawn and money earned, bills paid, all of that stuff is part of this relationship. And it's no one's job to do this. It is our job as a partnership to do this. So we must sort out who is best suited at any given time, which means there is no equal sharing of responsibility, but rather equitable sharing, meaning overall there is a balance, yet at times you'll be out of balance, and other times it will be flowing. One partner cannot do more than another. It's a union. This is if you have a partner. And if you don't, you're probably better off. But anyway. A couple, so this couple, this is why. A couple was having an argument. Oh, how unusual. Over who should make the coffee in the morning. Now this is a big deal, right? He insisted it was a woman's job. She said, "You're up earlier than I am, it's your job." So they could not resolve this argument whatsoever, so they went to their minister, of course. Who wouldn't? The minister wasn't so sure about this question, but knew that every question has an answer and is found in the Bible. So he told them to come back a week later while he researched the answer to this question. And they come back a week later, and the minister said, "Well, young man, I'm afraid the scripture is very clear on this one. It's your job." "What? Where does it say that in the Bible?" said the young man, very disbelieving. Right here, the minister shows him in the book under Hebrews. Thank you. Hebrews. You'll never forget that story. That's not a cosmic model, though. It's supposed to be a joke. And then we have C. I'm in a goofy mood. C, appreciation, right? Appreciation in a relationship is a very, very powerful and tangible way to show your love. Appreciation it prevents you from taking your partner for granted. Appreciation, I appreciate everything. I appreciate, even not in relationships, but just appreciate life itself. I appreciate life itself, and I know we do. Most of us in here do. So I have a short story of appreciation, and it comes from a nurse, which I think is a very sacred calling. So it was a busy morning at the clinic, and at approximately 8:30 a.m., an elderly gentleman arrived to have stitches removed from his thumb. He stated that he was in a really big, it's 8:30, but he's in a big hurry because he has an appointment at 9 o'clock. So I took his vital signs and had him take a seat, knowing that the doctor was going to be well over an hour before they could see him. I saw him look at his watch and decided I was not that busy, and I could help him possibly. So I went over and I looked at his stitches, and I saw that they had been healing really well, and I went to talk to a doctor about removal of these sutures and redressing his wound. While taking care of his wound, we began to talk. I asked him if he had another doctor's appointment this morning. He was in such a hurry. The gentleman told me, no, he needed to go and eat breakfast with his wife, who was in a nursing home. I then inquired as to her health. He told me that she had been there for quite a while, that she had Alzheimer's. As we talked and I finished dressing his wound, I asked if she would be worried if he was a little bit late. And he said that she has not recognized him in well over 5 years. And so I was really surprised, and I asked him, and you still go every morning? You think she would know if you were late or not? And he smiled and he patted my hand. He said, she doesn't know who I am, but I know who she is. I had to hold back tears, she said, and had goosebumps all over my arm. That's the kind of love that I want. That's neither physical or romantic, but a love, pure acceptance of just all, of that wholeness of that person. So the story takes us full circle to God's love for us, and our love for one another, an acceptance of all that we are, all that we have been, all that we have ever been, and all that we will not be. Teilhard de Chardin, the French monk and 19th century mystic, once wrote, "The day will come when, after harnessing the wind, the ethers, the tide, and gravitation, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And on that day, for the second time in the history of the world, we will have discovered fire." What if we made the decision to make that day today? What if we really made a strong decision and showed that loving kindness with everyone we come in contact with is very uplifting for them and for us? That's love in action. What if you love without expecting nothing in return? What a shift in consciousness that is. It truly is. And I know a lot of you do this already. It is really practicing loving kindness, just being kind to someone else, no matter what they look like, no matter what you might think they should do or not do. So I would say this love is your decision to choose wisely.